That works. Okay, perfect. Okay, so it's 4 p.m. It's a good time to start. Yes. All right. Hello and welcome everyone to this tonight's streaming session. We will continue our series with fantasy themed illustrations. And today I want to change the concept a little bit, the overall concept, and I want to paint something in color. So I have already something prepared and I hope this will be interesting. Let's get this going. The approach this time will be slightly different because colors, the way I paint colors is there's a different technique than with black and white. Whenever I paint black and white, I don't have to pay too much attention to certain concepts like warm highlights and dark shadows, but whenever you work with colors, there are a couple of additional rules that I have to pay attention to. And I will use many photo plates as well, because it just works better for my approach with color. But you will see. And if I sound tired, I'm sorry about this, but I just woke up. I'm trying to shift my usual sleeping rhythm to a normal one because in the last year or so I was used to go to bed at 4 a.m. in the morning, and now I want to reschedule it to a normal lifestyle again, and it comes with a couple of sacrifices, and one of which is that in the afternoon I get such a low point that I have to take a power nap. But anyway, these are some nice colors already. Whoops. I just noticed OBS doesn't record my complete screen, so I have to adjust this a little bit. There we go. Haha. So the first step for me is just to get some color on the canvas and get a palette, because I work directly from the palette. It serves as the basis for my picture as well. Alright, if you have any questions or if you just want to say hi, you can write it in the chat. Don't be shy. It also serves as a test if I receive incoming chat messages, because I don't trust my monitoring tool that much. Rosh, hey. It's alright. Your anniversary, man. Congratulations. Then enjoy your party. I found that whenever I start out painting an image, I need to have great colors at first, especially when I decide to make the image a colorized image. I've never been really good at, how should I say, at making a black and white image a color one, because my process already, the color process starts in the beginning. And though Photoshop has a lot of interesting tools to colorize black and white, I've never been really successful with that, and I never really cared to implement this into my illustration process. Whenever I concept something, it's a different thing because it's just about the concept, it's not about a finished illustration. But everything else, no thank you. I better start off with colors, because it gives me a good feeling of the temperature of the image and, you know, a palette to work from, and it's just a very different workflow in general. And this is also a phase of the painting process where I can exploit my smudge tool properly, so I can create gradients between colors and see if I get interesting shades, if I get interesting tones here and there, and then pick from them. Hey Greg, man, how are you? Not bad, he says. Yeah, same here. Just super tired. I just woke up. And I'm planning to make this a horizontal image, not a vertical one, so I have to tilt this sucker. Kind of makes me dizzy because the brush strokes are all in one direction. Okay, this time you will probably use me a lot of photo plates because due to the complexity of the subject matter and my general workflow, for colored images I use many photo references. More for texture and color than for the subject matter, but still, it's just the workflow I have established. Today is the goal is to paint a picture with color because I have painted only black and whites recently, and I wanted to show the people a little bit more of my approach with color. And we're still in the realms of fantasy, and this time it will be a dark elf. I have not decided the gender yet, sitting on the throne. Yeah, man. Right. Well, there are already a bunch of interesting colors there, and sometimes whenever I smudge around in an image and I don't pay attention to what I'm doing, I tend to smudge all colors together. And in order to reintroduce some contrast and some interesting color progressions, I like to open a new layer and apply the overlay functions. So, whoops, this is a little bit too hot. But in this manner, I can tint the colors in a specific direction. I can increase this cold and warmth contrast and just make them more vivid and pop a little bit more. Yeah, this allows me to get colors that otherwise I wouldn't get, or I would destroy in my smudging process. And there are all kinds of tools you can do this relatively quickly. For instance, with the dodge and burn tool, though they tend to pull the colors in a little bit unnatural direction, so there is a little bit of caution advised. Caution to be... no, what's the proper sentence? You have to be cautious. All right. There's also one cool feature in Photoshop. It's the sponge tool, so you can desaturate or saturate certain areas of your image if they are too intense, or change the colors. I mean, there's so many ways. It's just a question of your vision, basically. This area is a little bit too dark, too bright. I have to darken it up a little bit. And the funny part is, whenever you work on your palette, you don't have to do it in a very high resolution. That saves a lot of CPU time, because the details don't matter in this one, in this phase. The more you restrict yourself in terms of details, and the more you think in terms of values and how should I say, value zones, so to speak, and colors, the better your result will be. And later on you can res it up and apply many more details to it. Like forcing yourself to paint in a zoom out state is super helpful, because you also keep an eye on the overall composition. You can also mix in some line art in your image, which helps you to keep a very, very rough idea where things are supposed to go. And it also serves a little bit as a detail provider, because I really like to work with textures in a very early stage of the image. It just indicates the reflection of lights here and there, and serves as, gives you grip on the image. because you will smudge over it anyway, and I just love having everything on one layer because you don't have to fiddle around with thousands of layers, which makes your image look, you know, stiff in the end. So maybe you are maybe able to see the pose already a little bit. So this will be his knee, this will be his face, and he will have his one of his arms like this, you know, like in a thinking pose, and the other arm will hold something. I'm not sure, maybe a wizard stick or a sword or something like this. And actually, I want him to make he a she, because we have a we need more women in this illustration series. An old book. Interesting aspect, interesting idea, but I want to have him or her something long to cut through the composition. We may have old books lying around though. Maybe the throne is surrounded by wizard spell books or something like this. This is a cool idea actually. One problem I haven't really figured out is that whenever you paint in color, I really like to have a lot of different tones here and there and everywhere in the image. It's like the Gummy Bear song. Jesus Christ. Hello, Cheeky Artist. Thanks. There are some artists like Sergei Kolosov who have a style that is super, super easy readable because they basically sacrifice detail for readability. But I like to combine it as much as possible. I try to hold off using photo plates as long as possible, but I know at some point I have to do it because I want to reintroduce texture and color into my image. Yes, I do have an Instagram. Give me a sec. There you go. And I have to fill out my details on the Twitch page at some point. Thank you for checking it out. And someone told me, I don't remember who, that you can really enhance your Instagram with all kind, not Instagram, your Twitch with all kinds of animations and links and informations and blah blah blah. And I have to take the time to do this. I definitely have to take more breaks from a colorized image than from a black and white one, because your eyes get so oversaturated. You sometimes lose the objective. But first I have to get the right to the right stage where I can allow myself to take a break. And this process reminds me a lot of actually adjusting the field of view, no, the field of view, the focus of a camera, because you start out with a very blurry kind of image, and then you sharpen it up, you block it out. And the colors are so intense, they are actually too intense. Whenever something is not working in your image with this kind of process, thank you for the follow. I'll check out your Instagram as well later, though. Whenever something in your image is not working, it's probably due to a too stark, too strong contrast, or too intense colors, or the values are off. And the way you can tackle this is just smudge over it. Don't be afraid to destroy what you have painted, because sometimes you have to reiterate on one single spot several times. You will see me, painting details, destroying them, painting them again over and over again, because sometimes this process is necessary to get to a certain step. It's like a scaffolding that you need to create something great, and then you tear it down, so to speak. No problem, Chicky Artist. You're welcome. I just see that the image is so zoomed out on your screens. Maybe I can... Oh, no, it doesn't change. OBS is sometimes a little bit tricky to handle. No. I was hoping that I could adjust my OBS so you can see more of the image, but we have to stick with what we have. Damn it. Yes, and with colors, some artists say colors are not important. You can basically take any color. I mean, I've heard Feng Zhu say similar things, though I'm sure he didn't meant it as radical as I have interpreted it. But for me, it's colors has its own dynamic. I mean, it's true that the receptors in our eyes for brightness are way more sensitive, or they exist in larger numbers than our receptors for color. But that doesn't change the fact that there are certain rules that only apply to color. For instance, to lead the eye through saturation. If you keep the background unsaturated and your subject matter saturated, it will definitely allow you to shift the focus. And the same goes for this warm-cold contrast, or the color temperature of your image. These are all tools at your disposal to convey more information into your image, or through your image. Just another layer of artistic expression on top of your design and motif and all these kind of things. it's all about balance. It's always about balance. Balancing out the shadows with the highlights, the saturated tones with the unsaturated tones, balance the pose, you know, there are such concepts as contrapost. You maybe heard of it, when the shoulders are tilted in a different angle than the hips, which creates dynamic, right? Sharp and unsharp details and blurry parts of the image. These are all tools. Or with other words, the how do you say in English? Parts of the image that don't have as much detail serve a purpose. They serve the purpose of enhancing those parts who have detail. Like everything plays a role. This is what I'm trying to say. Whoops. Man, the reds are so intense. Let's see how we can fix this. There's one tool I really like to use. This is the photo filter. But I don't think it will help me in this case. No, it won't. No, I have to do it manually. And again, don't be afraid to erase stuff. Sometimes there are other methods where you can prepare a little sketch, like a black and white sketch, and use this as a reference. And I usually skip this stage, which is not beneficial always. But I try to do everything at once. Again, in an industrial context, I wouldn't do this. I would divide and conquer as much as possible and give the client many iteration access points, so to speak. But in this case, it's just, you know, for fun. Let's see where the image can lead me. But we can already start to see a little bit of the shape. I think it's a good time to res the image up. So we have 800 pixels. Let's make this 2000. Yes, and crop it. Yeah. Right. Now the cheaty part. Take this sucker and overlay him. Oops. Whoops. Let's see if this helps us a little bit. Oh, it's too much. The subject matter isn't really important in this case. It's just about giving us some kind of texture in the background, some kind of grid, or, you know, details that we can use to inspire ourselves. Because in the end, we stack information on top of already existing information, right? And I will do this another time. Well, let's see. In a moment, I will repeat this process. Okay. This is a guy that inspires the pose, actually. So take him here, overlay, and set the opacity a little bit lower, but not too much. Like this. Can also serve as a guideline. Oops. Let's give him some ears. And sometimes, well, quite often it's advisable to tilt the image to see if your composition has a fall off to a certain side, if there is a tilt or something. personally really love the flair of old Renaissance type of images. They had a certain softness, but at the same time also a degree of detail to them that I like to emulate. And this is where some of my personal stylistic inspiration comes from. It's just my personal preference. Again, there are some artists who are very, very clear in their visual language, which I also admire, and sometimes I take inspirations from that. But whenever I do something just for myself, I tend to fall into this habit of highly detailed, smudgy type of images, but it's alright. I mean, this is for fun. This is basically private stuff. And make use of your brush. You know, if your brush has the tendency to create a lot of detail, this is understand when to use it and when to destroy this detail in order to guide the eye. This is sometimes something I forget myself, but you also have to get comfortable with the brush and understand how it works in order to use it properly. One other aspect that I would like to emphasize is the progression of color. And this is something that this is probably the main reason why it's so difficult to paint in color the same way as you would do in black and white. Whenever you paint black and white, you just pay attention to the values. But with color, sometimes you have, depending on your material, different color transitions. This is especially evident with skin tones, because due to subsurface scattering, you have reds, you have sometimes shades of green, yellow with your skin, and whenever you paint something, you're usually your mind is absorbed with so many things that it's sometimes difficult to keep track of these color progressions and reintroduce them into your image, because they make an image actually interesting for me personally. You know, if someone is a master of applying beautiful transitions with colors, it makes the image more lively, so to speak. And painting by itself is in a way a destructive process. You usually yeah. Yes, exactly. Sorry, I'm just responding to what Greg is writing. All these things you have to reintroduce manually into your image. Photoshop has a lot of possibilities for it, especially with the layers. It's great because you can change colors and create gradients without destroying the details, which saves a lot of time. But all these things are vital. And one of the coolest things I love about 2D, which I haven't seen 3D replicate properly, is cold shadows and warm highlights. And this is super unnatural, but imagine we have his knee here at this point. And it's obviously a warm highlight because you have a very yellow spot at the top, and then slowly you have a gradient into something, orange and reddish. And then you can say, okay, in the bottom, obviously it's shadow, but instead of making a deep, dark red, you paint a cold color, like a gray would actually be already cold enough because of the, how it's called, simultaneous contrast. But you can take, a proper cold color, like a bluish tone, and then create a gradient and smudge it. And it doesn't really serve... Well, in nature, it wouldn't be like this. You would need a blue light that comes from below, but it makes this transition so interesting if you switch from warm tones to cold tones in the shadows. And when you are aware of this concept and you reintroduce it into your image all the time, it makes a very, very vivid image and tells the viewer that you are an artist that understands these things and who's able to apply them. I mean, this is what artistry is about in the end. You have the freedom to, drape your image how you want in terms of colors and all these concepts. Oops. And this is just a mindset. I imagine if you're a 3D artist, you try to you strive for realism, I assume, or many people do. It's the same with two-dimensional art as well. But you set your light sources and then you let it render out. But you have the ability and the option to, place lights where there wouldn't be any in real life, which makes the image more artistic in the end. Thank you for your, how should I say, acknowledgement, Greg. Yes, exactly. I mean, the tools are similar, right? In 3D, you probably can enhance the reflectiveness of a surface more than it would be in reality in order to enhance something. But it's exactly the case. It's exactly that. Usually you have, 3 light sources. The sun, the sky, and the ground. And then you can play with it. Man, I'm so afraid of painting the face because this will determine the gender, and it already looks male. It will be so tricky to shift it to something female, but I like a good challenge. Whoops. Yeah, probably you're right. The jawline, and for some reason it looks like he has like how do you call it, cutlet? It's called like a type of beard, but I will take care of this later. I'm too much of a wuss to approach it now because I know I will get caught up in it. And I want the background to be darker at this whole side of the image. Yeah, but here and there it starts to look alright. Usable. But I'm still nervous about this image. It's not at the stage where I would say, yeah, now I can relax and just fill in the gaps and details. What will be especially fun is the thought, how the frack am I going to paint pale color in this, paint skin tone in this lighting situation? Because I imagine the dark elf to be, you know, have a very, very pale type of skin, and you have warm light and you have cold light, and ugh, I'm gonna have my cheat my way through that, I assume. Ah, yeah, right. Yeah, I've seen iterations of dark elves with white hair and dark skin. But I've painted most of his hair dark already, so it will have to be the dark hair, pale skin kind of version. One other mistake I see, well, it's not necessarily a mistake, but it just reeks amateurism, is whenever people have the tendency to paint their shadows super, super dark, when they just disappear into the black all the time. I mean, it's a stylistic device, you can use it like this, but sometimes it just looks dirty. I have the opinion that it makes an image look very dirty and amateurish. So whenever you have super dark spots that disturb you, you can again put some color into it, you know, some contrast color in terms of temperature, you know, so a gray color if you have a very warm image, or even a bluish color. This will make the shadows more nuanced and just more interesting to look at. And I think that's even better for printing, but I'm not 100% sure about this. Or actually, I am sure about this. It is better for printing. Especially with blacks, I know that in order to get a really, really, really saturated black in printing, they usually mix some blue pigment to it, so it absorbs more light and doesn't appear as gray when the color is dry. But this is just a side note. can also, when you have shadows, you can go into a violet tone. This is also possible and interesting, rather than blue, for instance, or some kind of turquoise. Ugh, I don't know how to pronounce this. Turquoise. I think it's turquoise tones. I mean, it's up to your taste. Most important thing is that you're aware of these concepts and you use them wisely. Or experiment with them until you develop your taste. And then again, silhouettes are the things that make an image readable primarily, so be aware of that as well. Play around, again, balance with fluid lines and less fluid lines, jittery type of lines. Man, I'm missing the words today, but who cares? I think you understand what I'm trying to say. But it already starts to look like a Renaissance type of painting, which I approve. Alright, so I have to find something for the seed. Maybe I will borrow from the guy who I've already borrowed from. Oops. Let's take something from here. This leg. You know, I don't want to waste time on painting all the details by hand. I mean, if you're doing a study, you can do this, but I have a composition to take care of and all these things, so I allow myself to do this because it just saves time. It saves so much time. Oh yes, this could work. Yeah, but this could be interesting because, as you can see, it gives the image a little bit more grip. I know, okay, there's a seed, there are some reflections, there is material. I don't have to copy it one by one like this, and I'm not intending to do it. But it gives me ideas, and this is the most important thing. So it will have some kind of cloth on top of the how do you call it? Oh man, Armlehne, it's the German word. You know what I mean. The part where his elbow is resting, and below that you have some kind of metallic things going on. And I will probably paste this thing on top of it again at a later point to give it more texture, but for now it's just about colors and it's about composition and it's about ideas. Another thing that is my personal preference is, as you see, I use usually not more than 2 layers. I try to stick to one. At a later point, when I have to separate the character from the background and shift it around and I have more details in place, yes, then I can work with more layers. But for the beginning, in order to be able to smudge all these colors and mix them together without worrying on which frigging layer I am, I try to stick to one. And whenever I have problems with my proportions, I either use the liquify tool or I select something with a feather. So like here, I can apply a certain feather to it. I've just selected the leg and I can move it around without a sharp edge. So the blurriness of my image allows me to make changes quickly without worrying too much about the masks and all these kind of things. Trying to stay in the flow, trying to stay in the zone. this was my mistake. I want to have a sharp edge, so no feathering here. Oops. Focusing too much on the chair because it has a level of degree that I am drawn to. Haha, drawn. Alright. I think my microphone is slipping away. Just taking a short break for my eyes to relax. Hey, by the way, Cheeky Artist, if you're still around, cool stuff you have on Instagram. But there's so many different themes going on, it's hard to believe that everything comes from one artist. Very versatile, definitely. Oops. I especially like this wolf type of character. It's very interesting colors. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that it's very experimental, which I can totally appreciate. Different techniques, different mediums, different styles. Very cool. Yeah, extremely versatile. Watercolor. Interesting. Yeah, watercolor can be really, really expressive and technical. There are some artists who push the boundaries of it, and I'm really like, what? This is a watercolor painting? This looks like oil or acrylic or something like this. It's probably also an interesting mindset to apply what you have learned traditionally to your digital paintings and vice versa. Yeah. I totally get that. Whenever I paint, no, I don't paint traditionally. I used to airbrush a little bit, but it got too expensive. But whenever I draw something on paper, not being able to properly erase the stuff, it definitely gets your mind working. How to compensate the limitations you have. Yeah, whatever. I totally agree with you. I like digital the most as well. Because the speed, the mere speed, is just such a big advantage. The use of photo plates. But the only thing that bothers me about digital is it's not unique. You know, there you can have thousands of copies of your image, and it's you have to be a little bit creative if you want to sell your artwork and sell it as a unique piece of work. Yeah, exactly. Money and space. And less messy. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page about this topic. I will share a secret with you, because at some point I want to sell my art. And I thought, okay, I can spend a lot of money and print the stuff really well. I mean, you have already the availability of 8-color printing commercially. But I thought how to enhance it, how to make this thing really unique. And it's interesting because in the artist market or in the gallery market, the closest system to selling digital art is the system of selling photography. Yeah, exactly. The crowd is also a question, but I would love to get into the really high price range. You know, not sell a piece of art like a poster for, I don't know, $40 or something, but like triple digits or even more. And you could either Well, it's all depends on your reputation in the end. If you're a well-known artist, you can sell crap for tons of money, but you have to get there, and it's a long road with very different obstacles. But I've asked my question how to make your images unique. And there is one technique called nitrofrottage or nitrofrottage. And you print your stuff on an acrylic piece of glass or an acrylic surface, and you take a dissolvent and then you paint over it again. So you smear the colors and give it your unique brush stroke, so to speak. So this allows you to get rid of digital fragments, you know, and you can also put a backlight behind it so the colors pop more. And I really would love to try this. I mean, it's a little bit more costly, but I think the effect is worth it. So this is gold. You know, this could be gold because I've never seen anyone doing this, especially not with a concept art type of style. Yeah, to be honest, this is a market I'm not interested in. I've never. It's so hard to convince companies that digital art has a price, and the entertainment market is so competitive. It's usually, again, you have to be a renowned artist. You have to have a brand sticking to your name in order to have some leverage. Otherwise, you're nothing more than merely a service provider. And I wanted to try a little bit more of this, artsy fartsy type of gallery market. It's just an idea. I haven't really had time to pursue this. Oh, yes. But again, it comes down to what you want to do. If you want to work in a company, then by all means. For me, I've always realized that for some reason I can't stay too long in a full-time position, and we have a couple of extremely renowned concept art studios here in Berlin, and they do stuff for Games of Thrones, for instance. And I applied for them, and they told me, yeah, you have nice expressive stuff, but you have to be able to finish them, to a specific degree that we want to see. And I was like, yeah, should I invest the time and finish a couple of images and spend weeks or months doing it and still have the situation that it's speculative because I don't know, there's no guarantee for them taking me. And something in my gut told me, no, this is not your way. So, because my style lives from being unfinished, right? It's not, I don't see myself as a service provider all the time. There is an artistic side which I would like to, present and push in the foreground and tell the people here, these are my artworks, this is my painting style. It has a reason, and it's not a business product in this kind of sense. It can be, but only with clients who appreciate my style and not clients who want to press me into some kind of how should I say, established company style or something. I mean, they have good reasons for it, etc. pp. It's all fine and dandy for people who want to do this, but I just don't want to. I want to capitalize on my own fingerprint. This has recognition value. But maybe it's just my unpopular opinion. Yes, this is exactly what I was talking about. You're not only selling prints, but you modify your prints extensively to make them unique again. Like a hybrid between traditional and digital. And again, I've never really seen that with styles like this one, with realistic styles, maybe with more abstract kind of conceptual art, but not this mix between realism. Yes, exactly. Yeah, this reasoning is absolutely correct. Thank you, Dodeka. Is this right? I hope I pronounce it correctly. That's too sharp. I just want to have an indication, nothing more. so fixated on this cloth here at the bottom because it already has a degree of details that I enjoy. But I have to stick to the overall composition. Yeah, I'm putting highlights on top of the high points of this drapery, so we have a light reflection here, and this gives us more kind of a wavy geometry, which it is supposed to have, right? All right, so let's continue stealing from different pictures. I need me some boots. Oops. This might work. It seems that this is going to be a several parts video because there's no way I'm going to finish this in one session, but wasn't planned to. So yeah, just FYIing, just forwarding this information. Need some texture for the shoulder plates. I'm not really satisfied with this thing. Oh, anyway. Maybe we'll have a better idea later on. Ah, yes. Hopefully this is not too dark. Let's see if I can apply this somehow. Shit. Nah. Alright, this could work. He or she looks kind of fat. Not entirely sure where the problem is here, but now we're in a super fiddly stage. I mean, the colors and the composition for me are kind of set for the bigger part, and trying to figure out the pose of this dark elf. But again, this is all a matter of reiteration. If something is off, I will just smudge it to death until I come up with a better idea. I mean, tilted it looks alright, but from the other side it's a little bit odd. I think I have to simplify it. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, this is something I always struggle with. Sometimes the design for the clothes are counterproductive for the pose. So in this case, I want to give him some kind of, accessoires that just indicate how thin this dark elf actually is. But my first attempt made her actually look fat, and this was not what I intended to do. So sometimes you have to sacrifice for the greater good of the image. And it gives this dark spot some interesting highlights as well, so it's a nice compromise. Still looks like a man, or no, more than ever. But it's not a big problem. So a matter of proportions in the end. I think in my mind it was always supposed to be a guy, so not that easy to shift the gender actually, as I thought. Starts to look like something in between a guy and a girl. Many things that have to be fixed, but the direction is not bad. But then again, I don't like it that much, so I'll have to smudge it a little bit. The cool thing is this lighting situations gives us the opportunity to work a lot with rim linings. So we have this cold light coming from outside, we have this warm light coming from the right. So this is a good chance to give our character some more reflective outlines to set her apart from the background. And yes, these are tools that in normal lighting conditions you wouldn't have that often, but here we can make full use of it. Hey, Storm Eagle. No, that's not Tor. It's just a random dog elf. And since when is Tor... has Tor dark hair? Oh. Yeah, I wasn't sure in which direction this was meant to go, but yeah, I'm Thor. I'm coming from Asgard. I'm streaming from Asgard. Sorry for my slow connection, because I've been streaming for 2 hours now, and I'm so focused on this image. Something's off with her right arm. Looks a little bit crippled. So let's make it smaller. What else? Oops. Yeah, it looks better. It's like she has her arms straight and not tilted. Well, yeah, kind of. I do all three, but not for the stream. It's actually I have a part-time project where I make an animation movie, and I try to learn animation and 3D modeling. So, yeah, painting is probably the best developed skill of all these. Oh yeah, this works much better. Much better. I like it. And see this, the down, not the downside, the bottom of the arm serves as a great example for enhancing the silhouette against the background through a cold shadow and a rim light coming from this window and bouncing off the ground. It's not supposed to be that bright, but since we are artists and we can enhance certain features of our image, I chose to do it this way. Like he's holding something else. You mean his dick? The sentence can be misinterpreted in so many ways. But yeah, it's a dark elf, so they're long and black, aren't they? And it's supposed to be a woman, goddammit. Yeah, I understand the phallic sub context in this image, so yeah, I agree with you on this point. Yeah, it started out to be a dude, and I tried to give her a gender operation during the course of the painting, but it's more difficult than I thought. Or maybe we're not used to see. Yeah, this was yeah, you name it. I was thinking of a transgender elf, but I think our society is not far enough to transport this concept into the realms of fantasy. But I'm sure once the eyelashes are on and you see the big googly eyes and the lips, then it will be clear that it's supposed to be female. Yeah, LGBT plus is probably an interesting market for it. Though, looking at the newest Star Wars movie, the interest of hyper diverse characters seems to be diminishing. Jawas. It's a good question. They look all... I'm just looking at the picture, and there are some Jawas in a sort of a Java bikini, so it looks like they have genders. Now that you think of it, how the fuck do they procreate? Well, sex sells, and if you could femalize an Ewok, you would probably do it. Or Wookiee, for that matter, which is basically supposed to be the same thing, right? Ewok is the how do you call it? Horizontally flipped word for Wookiee. Yeah. Do you think that the technology in Star Wars is far enough to clone Jawas? They look a little bit primitive. But then who knows? Maybe they drop some nasty orgies in their transport vehicle, you know, because it seems to be big enough to drop a decent party. I just heard this weird... I'm not sure if it's even a rumor, but they tried to come up with a name for the Ewoks, and they were thinking of Wookiees and kind of, you know, made an anagram of the word Ewoks, Wookiees, because yeah, they're basically small Wookiees, so it's the origin of the word at least, but design-wise, yeah, I have to take your word for it. But then again, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan, just saw a couple of documentaries about it. Frick. Nope, just accelerating the process. Depends where you stand. To be good at cheating is also a skill, so... No, it kind of doesn't work. These clothes have to be symmetrical. And I don't like this part. Oh. Since you seem to be so triggered about me using photo plates, here's one more. Enjoy my cheating. If this works at all. Oh, what a beautiful dark tone it is. Actually looks quite nice. Yes. I believe that. Get some of the texture. Alright, it has at least a decent degree of density for his torso, so we can work something out at this point. But I don't like the shoulder plates, they look too chaotic. I don't know what to do with them. Actually, I imagine Dark Elves to be very slick and stylish with their choice of clothing, so it can't be something, you know, miss and match type of... the sentence goes nowhere. They can't look like an orc, this is what I'm trying to say. It's not done yet. I don't know where to put it, to be honest. the body. Well, no, it's probably will be somewhere a peg leg. What the frack is a peg leg? Oh yeah, a pirate dark elf. Pirate elf, yeah. Oh, we have then an amputee, transgender, orc elf or what? Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, I will continue for 10 more minutes and then I'm done. I already feel like mush in my head, so it's been going on for 2.5 hours, so I think this is enough for today. I'm from Germany. I was born in Russia, but now I'm living here in Germany, in this lovely country. And where are you from? Storm Eagle? From the UK. Sorry, I can't mimic UK type of dialect. Hello, Lady Immortal. Good morning. It's evening here. So where are you from? Oh, she's not vomiting. Storm Eagle. Thank you. Yeah, this is the whole thing. A US. Ah, alright, I see. Yes. Faces. They are tough. Hello, girl that paints. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry to say that you just you joined into the stream when I'm about to finish the stream because I've been painting for 2.5 hours straight. But I will continue painting this image sometime during the week or next Saturday, just for your information. Yeah. I think her face is too small. Too big. Oh, it's so difficult. Facial proportions are so hard. Yeah, thank you, girl that paints. You're such a funny lad, Storm Eagle. I enjoy your type of humor a lot. Gotta take the hand a little bit lower. Well, whoops. Yeah, the face. Okay, I will have to take care of the mouth and everything else at a later point. I think my focus is already super off. Oops. Well, anyway, since I'm not getting anywhere, I think for 2.5 hours this is a decent step. We have managed to achieve some progress. Well, thank you everyone for stopping by, and I hope to see you next time, whenever that might be. Once again, I think either during the week or definitely next Saturday at 4 p.m. Central European Time, but you will be notified, I guess. So thank you very much and see you around. Bye.